Now it's time for today's perspective. And from Josephine Baker to James Baldwin to the fashion journalist Andre Leon Talley, France, and particularly the city of here, Paris, has long drawn gay and bisexual people, queer African Americans seeking perhaps some freedom, but also creative possibility. Well, one of those recognising and also currently celebrating that is my guest today, the novelist Rasheed Newson. He's leading a lecture tonight at the American Library here in Paris to talk about the issue. Rasheed Newson, also author of the bestseller My Government Means to Kill Me, and his new book, which is coming out shortly as well, There's Only One Sin in Hollywood, a novel. He joins us here in the studio now. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us today. Your talk there, it's called From Baldwin to Today, Queer Black Expats in Paris. I mean, why do you think then that people have been drawn to Paris, if you like, in this way?
Well, that's part of what the talk is going to be about, is like, how did Paris earn that reputation as a beacon that sort of drove these people to it? What's fun is it's sort of what happened between World War I and World War II. It's also what happened with sodomy laws starting in 1791. So there's a big chunk of history that sort of gets into why Paris and why it wasn't London, why it wasn't Berlin, why it wasn't Madrid, what was special about this city.
What was it then?
I think you had started centuries ago an openness to queer people, not persecuting it, celebrating it in artists, not being bothered by it. There's actually kind of, Baldwin talked about an indifference of the Parisian, which is actually kind of very nice and warm, which is your business is your business. And as long as you're a good neighbor, I'm all right with you.
So it's about freedom of expression?
Freedom of expression, but also this idea that you don't need to police other people's behavior. That what you value in other people isn't that they necessarily do what you do. You can see other things they're producing and find that fulfilling and rewarding as another neighbor.
Presumably, particularly with the timescale that you're talking about here, there are limits to it, though, aren't
there? There were limits, but they were limits that went much further than any other place you were going to kind of find on Earth. That you could be openly homosexual, that you weren't necessarily being persecuted. It gave these people an expression to really, and a chance to really reckon and explore their sexuality in a way that they could do in very few places.
Yeah, why? I mean, what would the situation have been, do you think, at the time in the US, for example?
Well, the US didn't get rid of its sodomy laws until the 2000s. So we were far, far, far behind in terms of letting people who were queer have open, full lives. I'm a gay man who's married and has 2 children that we adopted. In my lifetime, when I was born, both those things were illegal.
So what do you want to talk about in your lecture? What are you going to be talking about, I suppose, yeah?
I like talking about history and making connections that don't seem apparent. Talking about how something that happened hundreds of years ago is affecting us now. Talking about how the progression of acceptance works. Gay men owe their freedom to lesbian women who sort of pioneered and came first and found Paris more palatable to them. And then they sort of did the work that allowed the gay men to come in and live here as well. So it's the sweep of history in ways that we don't normally think of history working.
There are some fears, aren't there, that things are starting to swing back in the other way, notably in certain countries. I mean, is that something that concerns you?
Oh, it concerns me desperately. Sadly, that swing back, it happens. I mean, I try to remind myself that history tends to be like that. It is unfortunately not an unbroken march forward. We make great strides, and then we kind of have these retro elements, these retro eras where things go back. The truth is, though, queer people are here to stay. There's no getting rid of us. Regimes have tried. We endure.
Let's talk about your books now. Your best-selling book, My Government Means to Kill Me, a novel, literary finalist for gay fiction, is named one of the 100 notable books of 2022 by the New York Times. Tell us about it.
Well, it was a thrill. That book is the political and sexual awakening of a young gay black man in New York during the 1980s. He leaves his conservative hometown, going to New York, thinking he's going to be a kid in a candy store. He arrives, unfortunately, during the height of the AIDS crisis and becomes an ACT UP activist. So it's about taking someone who doesn't think of themselves as political and what happens when they have to wake up to politics.
And you've got another new book that we just saw the cover of. There it is behind you. There's Only One Sin in Hollywood, a novel this is. Tell us about this one.
This is a fun book. This takes place in Los Angeles in the 1950s and 60s, as you can guess, in Hollywood. It's about a gay black actor before Stonewall, before the LGBTQ plus movement has really solidified, and what the politics of that era were. He's someone who, again, in the beginning, is quite happy to be living in the closet with this sort of secret double life, but then begins to become politically aware and decides, I think I have to use my voice.
It's obvious that representing queer people in your literature is very, very important to you.
Yes, I mean, it's fun. I mean, no one's asked me to, but I've sort of appointed myself as a writer, someone who can look at American history through the decades and tell people what the black queer people might have been doing. We haven't really been included in the story, and so I love writing us in.
And you're also researching a new book, aren't you? This is about the emergence of a gay African-American male runway or catwalk model, becomes something of an international sensation. Tell us about this.
Yeah, I've always been in love with sort of like fashion and Fashion Week, and this idea that people who are not being paid a lot of money suddenly become internationally known with their photos everywhere, and this sort of instant white-hot celebrity that can surround a very young, unprepared human being. And so I'd like to see what the weight of that spotlight and the heat of that spotlight does to a character.
And finally, it's not just books, it's not just lectures, it's not just books, also TV drama as well. You're Bel Air. Tell us about your role in Bel Air.
I was one of the co-creators of sort of adapting that show from the Fresh Prince of Bel Air into the modern drama series Bel Air, and I was one of the showrunners for the first 2 seasons. It was fun to take that show and sort of bring new life to it.
I mean, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is one of those TV series that sort of everyone remembers from my era, from their youth, I suppose.
Oh yeah, mine as well. I think one of the challenges was when we were going into it, the feedback was, don't do this, don't touch it, you could only ruin it. I love this show, it's beloved. But the show came out and the audience gave us a chance, and it was a big hit.
Yeah, being able to turn it into something new for the modern era, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that we had to remind people who remembered the show is most of our viewers are too young to have seen it, really. So it was, for a lot of them, their introduction to that world, and then they went back and watched The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah. Tell us about the reaction that you get, and this is the reaction to your lectures, to your books, to your TV series as well. Notably, of course, from queer people. I mean, what kind of remarks and comments do you get, if you like?
Well, television is fun because you get millions of viewers, and they tell you whatever they're thinking, which is, we love it, we hate it, why couldn't you do better? With the books, it's much more intimate. It's a smaller audience, but it's much more intense. People come up and they tell me, I read this book and I saw myself. I read this book, I saw my brother. I read this book and I thought about this world in a different way. It's much more emotional.
And a lot of gratitude as well, I'm sure. Rasheed
Yes.
Newson, thanks very much for coming in and
Thanks for
talking
having
to us. Lecture later on, American Library here in Paris, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. If you happen to be in Paris, you can go along to the American Library to hear Rasheed talk. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us here on France 24 today.